New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Live from a secure concrete bunker somewhere in Ohio, New Thought Media Network presents Pastor Michael Mangus with Friday's Fireside Chat, spiritual conversation for today. Here he is from the secret radio room, surrounded by thousands of watts, Pastor Michael Mangus.
And once again, as he cheered on by the thousands, and I mean thousands of people outside. Hello there. Good to see everyone with us this evening here on Friday's Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network. I am the Reverend Michael Mangus, broadcasting from the super secret concrete bunker somewhere around Akron, Ohio. That is so top secret, only Santa Claus knows where it's at. Well, we have a wonderful holiday show for you this evening. Please feel free to interact with us by posting your comment either on Facebook or on YouTube. And for those of you who are shy, I know you're out there. All you need to do is just to send me an email, pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com, pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. I read those during the week. And thank you for sending those. So the purpose of our fireside chat here is to talk about contemporary issues from a spiritual / New Thought perspective. And you do not have to agree with myself or my guest this evening, Reverend Jeff Radcliff, or anything else that we talk about. And the reason being is we just want you to think. Think about your part as far as bringing about a world that does work for everyone. If we talk about oneness on Sundays and other times during the week in our centers, then we are a part of either the problem or the solution. So to report whether or not I am on Santa's good or bad list this evening, we have all the way from Tennessee, our staff contributor now, Reverend Jeff Radcliff. Jeff always has something to say about the news, and Reverend Jeff will be our special guest in just a few moments. So, Jeff, what does your intel say? Am I on the good list or the bad list? He's saying it's iffy. So, I bet. All right, Jeff will be with us in just a few moments. Good to see everyone this evening. In our news tonight, first of all, let me wish all of you a very happy solstice. Yesterday was the first official day of winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. So again, happy solstice, especially to all of my pagan friends. And I have a wonderful new tradition that you can try this year. Iceland has a cozy Christmas book flood reading tradition called Jólaboka Flood. Yes, that's right, Jólaboka Flood. And it says here from the internet, it says, if you're looking for an excuse to wind down from all the holiday hustle this year, take a cue from Iceland. For decades now, this remote country has observed a tradition that is tailor-made for book lovers or anyone who wants to make their Christmas Eve a silent night. It is called Jólaboka Flood, which roughly translates from the Icelandic as Christmas book flood. As a part of the tradition, friends and loved ones in Iceland give each other a book on the night before Christmas, on Christmas Eve. Then they spend the rest of the night curled up with that book, ideally with a cup of hot cocoa or maybe something a little stronger. And they also eat chocolate. Wow. Jola flood is also the main driver for the publishing industry in that country, which is surprisingly robust. 93% of Icelanders read a book every year, according to a 2013 study, and around 50% read at least 8 books annually. I wonder how many books we read here in the United States per capita. From the article, it says, in fact, half of all book sales in Iceland take place around 4 months before Christmas. It's worth noting, though, that Jola flood isn't the only Christmas tradition native to Iceland. There are also Yule lads who go around leaving candy and gifts in the shoes of good little children on the 13 nights leading up to the big night, and rotten potatoes in the shoes of the bad ones. That's right. Then you have the Yule cat, who would, in early versions of the story, eat people who hadn't received a gift of new clothes by Christmas Eve. To sum it all up, Icelanders win at Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy Yule to all of the folks out in New Thought Media Land. Again, I hope that you have something wonderful planned for your holiday. As we get to the news, though, the U.S. says it's ready to support a UN resolution calling for a suspension of fighting between Israel and Hamas and an increase in humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. The vote is expected to take place today as one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. A U.S. veto would mean that the resolution would not pass. The U.S. has previously expressed concerns over a prior draft of the resolution. So our prayers for peace continue for the Mideast, and because of the conflict, many of the Christian churches in the Gaza Strip have toned down their celebrations this year. Bethlehem is located in the Gaza Strip, so not only is it unsafe for all the residents there, is that they are missing out on all the tourist money that usually comes into that area during this time of year. The civilian death toll is around 40,000 civilians. So our prayers for peace continue. From the United States, President Joe Biden is ramping up the pressure on Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez to help with the migrant crisis at the U.S. southern border. In a call between the two on Thursday, the presidents agreed that additional enforcement actions are urgently needed to reopen ports on the U.S.-Mexico border, where a migrant surge has strained the federal resources and led to port closures. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby told reporters, over the recent days, more than 10,000 migrants have unlawfully crossed the U.S.-Mexico border daily. These are numbers not seen since the days before the lifting of a COVID-era restriction known as Title 42 that allowed authorities to turn back migrants at the border. So I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a family who has no life in their country. Here's a mother and father taking their children for a better life in the U.S. Wouldn't you risk traveling thousands of miles for a much better existence? You're getting all these letters from your relatives saying, oh, the United States is great. Our Bible-believing evangelical friends who have been caught up in the Christian nationalism movement and also the Trump cult say, well, just close all the borders down. That'll solve all of our problems here in the U.S. Shut them all down? Now, I thought that in the Old Testament, it said to welcome travelers from other lands. And again, I'm reading a book called Christians Against Christianity. So when the worship of an ideology and a man is more important than Judeo-Christian values, who is worshiping the golden calf? And I think Reverend Jeff has something to say about Christian nationalism when we go ahead and we go to and talk to him at the bottom of the hour. In surprising news from the Vatican, same-sex couples may receive informal blessings. With 5 words uttered right at the beginning of his pontificate, Pope Francis charged the Catholic conversation about LGBTQ plus people. In 2013, when asked by a journalist about gay priests, the Pope famously replied, "Who am I to judge?" And over the last decade, the Pope has shifted the church's tone and approach to gay people, refusing to take a judgmental stance, something that the church institutions and leaders have often been accused of doing in the past. His decision to authorize the blessings of same-sex couples is the most significant development to take place in his pontificate in terms of his outreach to the gay community, and follows earlier, more gradual developments. Francis's latest move will be welcomed by many who have called long for the reform in this area, but it's also likely to face significant pushback from parts of the church deeply opposed to his vision. According to the Catholic Church, sex is only permitted between a man and a woman who are married. The church's official teaching describes homosexuality as a disorder, a wording that some reform-minded Catholics want to see altered, but also that gay people must be treated with respect, compassion, and sensitivity, and all unjust discrimination be avoided. So what is happening is that Francis is saying that if you are a parish priest, that you can go ahead and give an informal blessing to the couple privately. It's not a part of a marriage ceremony, and it cannot be a part of a civil or religious ceremony performed for the couple. So they can do a blessing. And Pope Francis is receiving a lot of pushback on this one. And if I am correct, if you are in a queer relationship, then you can't receive the sacraments, including communion and marriage. This will be very interesting to see this decision played out, especially here in the U.S. Now, U.S. Catholics tend to be more conservative compared to the rest of the world. Will there be a split of the Catholic Church on this progressive decision? Like my friends in the United Methodist Church and also the Episcopalians? Just to let you know this, in New Thought centers, all are welcomed. All are welcomed. Well, the last story I found very interesting, and maybe we can talk to Jeff about this. It's called Church for Nuns, not nuns in habits, but Nones. Church for Nuns, anti-dogma spiritual collectives emerging around the U.S. From CNN from Atlanta, 20 minutes outside of downtown Atlanta, Vinnings Lake sits by a humming thoroughfare connecting the Veterans Memorial Highway to the affluent suburbs north of the city. While its white steeple and brick exterior, it could be easily mistaken for another Southern Baptist church adorning the American Bible Belt. But facade aside, the community no longer thinks itself as strictly a church. It says we're an ever-evolving spiritual collective, says the pastor Cody Deese, said to those gathered in the dimly lit sanctuary on a rainy Sunday in early December. If you're a Christian, wonderful. If you're a post-Christian, also wonderful. So Vinnings Lake is one of a handful of spiritual communities across the U.S. sprouting from the soil of an ex-evangelical, not evangelical, but an ex-evangelical and deconstruction movement. While their Sunday morning gatherings retain the basic structure of many Christian services like music, teaching, and fellowship, these collectives reject dogma, prefer questions over answers, and have no intention of converting anyone to anything. Here, LGBTQ inclusion is not for a debate. People of all faiths and no faiths are welcomed. And Jesus can be a savior or a radical rabbi or a metaphor depending upon your spiritual inclinations. So what's happening here across the U.S. and also other parts of the world is that communities are gathering. You can call them post-Christian. They do have a Christian flavor to them. However, that they are very open and receptive. The community I visited down in Springfield, Missouri, for Theological Beer Camp in October, they're called the Venues, and they have a wonderful sign outside that said, "We are not for everyone because we are for everyone." And the Venues itself is right in the midst of the Bible Belt down there in Springfield, Missouri. So my question is this, and I've always felt this way. I think that we in New Thought are in a wonderful place to provide this kind of service, this kind of fellowship to the nuns, not spiritual or religious. That's what it's called. So that is why, again, that this whole idea of community is being reformed. So think about that for your community, wherever that you're at, and how you can serve the people who are spiritual, not religious, in your community. 19 minutes and 30 seconds, Jeff. What do you think? Will I give you enough time to talk? Well, good evening, everyone from across the United States and also around the world. Good to have you with us this evening here on Friday evening's Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network. Coming up here at the bottom of the hour will be my special guest, the Reverend Jeff Radcliff. Let's see who's with us this evening. Hello there. Diana Mangus is with us this evening. She says, "Happy holidays, everyone." There he is, Abdul from Chicago, Illinois. Peace and blessings. I caught you guys again. And Diana says, amazing. To what story, Diana? Everything that I say here on the New Thought Media Network is amazing. Jeff is rolling his eyes in the background. All right. Well, again, thank you, everyone, for commenting. Again, please leave your comments either in Facebook or on YouTube. Let's go to some announcements here. Yours truly is currently parking himself at Summit CSL. For more information, please go to summitcsl.org. There you will find information about our wonderful Sunday gathering online at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific time. Grab your cup of coffee, your tea, your espresso, your cup of hot cocoa, and join us this Sunday. I do believe that we have one of the best services that I've seen in New Thought because there's a balance of the M's, which are music, meditation, and message. And this Sunday, we will have a special Christmas Eve service with our guest speaker being New Thought Media Network superstar, the Right Reverend Michael Mangus. All right. Go to summitcsl.org for more information on how to join our Zoom call, and our services are also simulcast on the Summit Spiritual Center of Akron Facebook page, and also our Facebook page has past broadcasts of the Fireside Chat and yours truly when he is on the New Thought Media Network. I know everyone is asking for your money this month. I get that. And I am requesting that if you have not in the past given, could you please give a very special gift this month? Your monetary gift will help us end the year in the black, and also give us funds to start going through some of the open doors that we have been presented with here. We have currently a schedule of over 40 hours of programming each and every week. We are reaching the world with this good news, with this message. So I'm asking you here to participate, to partner with us, to take this New Thought message to the world. So go to ntmedia.org/donate, either give a very generous one-time gift, or you can do like myself and also Summit Center for Spiritual Living. They give on a monthly basis, and that really helps us as far as creating budgets. That's what we plan our spending on, is the monthly contributions. So again, New Thought Media Network.org/donate. And thank you very much. All right. She said that you were done with the news in less than 20 minutes. That's the reason why she was saying amazing. All right. We will be right back with Reverend Jeff Radcliff, hopefully. I just lost him on my screen, but we'll see him back here in just a few moments here on your positively inspiring network, the New Thought Media Network, here on the Friday evening Fireside Chat.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
The views and opinions expressed by Pastor Michael Mangus are generally right. However, they are his own and do not reflect the views and opinions of New Thought Media Network, Centers for Spiritual Living, or any other person living or dead. As they say in the 12-Step Recovery Program, take what you like and leave the rest. Here again is Pastor Michael.
And all the way from his secret compound in Tennessee, tornado proof, here he is, the Reverend Jeff Radcliff. Hello, Jeff, and happy holidays to you.
Yeah, happy holidays. And I think you kind of misread what Diana said a little while ago. She said it was amazing that you were done with the news in less than 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I find it to be amazing as well, because you know how you go on.
I know. Well, did I ever tell you about the reason why she put a clock up at our sanctuary, or in our sanctuary?
Probably to keep a rein on you, I would think.
You're right, because of her long-winded minister husband, who would go on and on and on and on and on and on. She wanted me to be aware of the time. So that's why now that I keep my comments to less than 20 minutes now, especially during my sermons. Yeah.
Well,
Jeff, go ahead.
Question. Are you playing your crowd sounds today? Because I wasn't hearing them. Oh, there we go. Just a little smidgen of one.
That was for you, Jeff.
Okay. I thought for maybe a second I was going selectively deaf.
Well, all right. So the news that we really want to find out, am I on the good or bad list this year?
Well, I've heard that it can go in either way. It can go in either direction. So you've got just a couple more days to really swing the tide over to your favor.
Okay, so you're saying
you're batting at 500 right now.
Batting what now?
You're batting at 500 right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it could go either way.
It could go either way.
I could get rotten potatoes in my shoes.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, when you were talking about the Yule lads, you neglected their mother.
Okay.
Gila. Troll. She's been married for 3 times.
Okay.
She's got dozens of children with each of her husbands, and she's still married to the last one, according to tradition. But these are her children from her third marriage, and it's only recently that the story is that they started giving little trinkets out to good children, because the story was originally that all they did was go around and snatch up the bad kids. Ooh. Because Gila eats them. Gila eats naughty children.
Wow.
Yeah. So, when it comes to these Icelandic Christmas traditions, well, they're up there above the Arctic Circle, and it's dark for so long. You kind of got to expect that their holidays are going to be dark too. And I don't know that it gets any darker than this. But
Well, what
yeah,
do you what do you think about the idea of the
the
book of
YOLO,
blood?
the book, I like it. It's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, we were talking on the um, Rockin' the Love on Wednesday with Robin and Gil. We were talking about traditions and how that over the years that some of us have had to change our family traditions because they weren't that healthy. And I was writing my lesson for Sunday, and I was recalling about how Christmas in my household, we always got presents, but my father's behavior was kind of iffy because he liked to drink in public or in front of us on Christmas. So he was kind of Jekyll and Hyde all during that time. So we were on pins and needles. So I've had to come up with some other holiday traditions. I think that the book flood, though, is a really good tradition. And
The book is good.
especially
I like it.
drinking of the hot cocoa with a little adult beverage in it, and also the eating of chocolates.
Mhm. All of which I can get behind.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So go ahead. What part of the news do you want to talk about this evening?
Oh, well, it's funny that you had mentioned the church for the nuns, because I have a couple of friends who are members of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who are drag queens who dress in clerical outfits.
Yes.
Well, and I asked one how he got into that, and he goes, I just put on this nun's outfit. He said, and it was habit for me. And
Oh, hold it. I think this is the one.
oh, okay, I thought you were probably going to go for the crowd going, oh, but
There you go, rim shot.
yeah, yeah.
So,
But they basically are following what we in New Thought do, because we're not one of these traditions that sticks. We're not Christian only. Okay.
mhm.
Because we draw on traditions from around the world, because wisdom is everywhere.
Yes.
It's and it seems a shame to let good religion or good philosophy or good truth pass you by simply because it doesn't go to your church.
And
we
I
don't
also,
give it to
yeah.
you.
And I also think the whole idea of community.
Mhm.
For me, I know that my spirituality has been enhanced by people, being around people on a regular basis, not only loving me, but also taking me aside once in a while and saying, "Are you sure you really want to do that?"
Mhm. Yeah,
So I think that people who go ahead and they dump the church, they miss out on that whole idea of community.
exactly.
But what's your opinion about, again, these kind of pseudo Christian congregations that are sprouting up all around America?
Well, when you see what Christianity has become, it's not hard to understand why people would want to divorce themselves from that. But yet they still have a hunger for spirituality. There's still that God-shaped hole within that they're looking to fill. And if they can't get it in one of the local Christian churches, then they're going to find it somewhere else. I'd rather they find it with somebody who is willing to meet them where they are and to give them, a varied spiritual diet, of not just Christianity, but of other religions and philosophies and traditions from around the world. So, unfortunately, if the church, the Christian church, isn't doing it for them, like I said, they're going to go elsewhere, and that's where New Thought comes in. That's where these community organizations come from, and And I like the idea of calling it a community rather than a church.
Yes.
Um, even the word center has connotations of hierarchy to it.
Yes.
Organization has not always been kind to spirituality, but if we can keep a loose, not terribly loose, have some sort of structure to it, but not so tightly constricted that we're restricting the growth of the movement and the growth of the people within it, I think that's a good thing. So I like calling it community, a spiritual community. Yeah.
So what did you think about the sign outside of the venues and says, we're not for everyone because we are for everyone?
Well, they're telling you how it is. They're telling you what you're going to get. So when you go in there and you find that it's not to your liking, you can't complain about it because, they're telling you we're not for everybody. And it's okay if we're not for you. It's like one of the stories that Jesus, that is told of Jesus in the Gospels was, well, he said basically, if you're well, you don't need a doctor. Sick people are the people who need doctors, and so that's what I think of when I think of church or spiritual community. If you don't need us, then that's okay. But if you do, we're there for you. We're there for you. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I have a mentor minister that I talk to a couple of times a month. And one of the things that we've talked about is that if you do not have the church community, is that you have other communities that are forming, like, for example, yoga communities,
Mhm.
also CrossFit, that if someone becomes ill in CrossFit, that there's a follow-up from the director, and also more likely is cards from the other members. So I think that there is that hole, that God-shaped hole that is there that we can fill. And that I think that, again, this whole idea of community, it is a budding process. It's not something that
Right.
is set in stone. But a good example was going to the venues and seeing one of these communities in action. First of all, is that for our conference, 100% of the volunteers came from that church, or I'm sorry, again, from that community.
Right.
And that they were absolutely amazing. There was, they had a very vibrant family program. They were extremely inclusive, LGBTQ plus inclusive. It was just again, that it was interesting looking at the local reviews of the church. I could have told you what they would say is they said something about avoid this cult. Don't go to this church because it's not preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, and other things too. So I don't know of any of those kind of congregations around here yet, but I would like to be a part of us having more of a community around here that, again, that honored everyone, that was inclusive of all traditions, and also that provided services for the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting that they'd have those kind of reactions to such an organization, because we could just as easily go and put a sign outside their door that would say, avoid this place. They don't practice what they preach. So, people who live in glass churches shouldn't throw stones.
That's right. Well, again, yeah. So I've been reading books about the Christian nationalism movement that's happening, how it's affecting the churches. Your favorite pastor, Russell Moore.
Who?
Russell Moore, who used to be with the Southern Baptist Convention. Now he's the editor-in-chief of Christianity Today. He's written a book. Also, a book that I read this past week. It's called The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory by author Tim Alberta, who's a writer for The Atlantic. A very wonderful book about how the evangelical church is pushing back now on this worship of America and this worship of Donald Trump. Your comments, Reverend Jeff Radcliffe.
It's high time that there started to be some sort of pushback on that. I want to choose my words carefully here because I don't want to be any more offensive than I have to be. And that
come on,
that
Jeff.
comes easily. That comes very easy. But
go ahead.
Here's the thing. If you're going to call yourself by the name, then you need to follow the guidelines, follow the rules, follow the teachings. And for the longest time, we haven't been seeing that. We have not been seeing that at all. We have not been seeing love your neighbor. We've not been seeing any take care of the widows and the orphans, feed the poor, the hungry, heal the sick. We haven't seen a whole lot of that lately. And now we're finally starting to see that because people are beginning to realize, you know what? There's got to be more to calling yourself a Christian. There's got to be more to being a Christian than just calling yourself one. I mean, because you can go out in the middle of your garage and stand there and proclaim all day that you're a Pontiac, but you're never going to be a car. And I think that a lot of these people are seeing people come into the church and saying, I'm a Christian, but they're not living up to it. And Jesus himself said, they'll know that you are my disciples when they look at you and see that you are keeping my commandments. And what was his commandment? He only gave two. He said, love God and love your neighbor. He said, if you do those things, everything else falls into place. Well, they want to take the everything else and magnify it, but there's no love there. And when there's no love there, it's like Paul said in 1 Corinthians 13, you become as a clanging bell or as a gong. You're just making all this noise, and it doesn't mean a whole lot of anything.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of there. To quote, oh my gosh, what was her name? She was the partner of Alice B. Toklas. Why am I drawing a blank on this lady's name?
If you know, put it in the comments.
Oh yes, please do. I mean, there's got to be a lesbian listening right now who says, "I know who he's talking about." For the life of me, remember what the woman's name was. People say the same thing about Oakland, California. There's not a lot of here. Well, there's not a lot of Christ in a lot of these Christians. And that's been my big theme this month. I've been harping on it. Somebody mentioned it to me on Facebook. Was it yesterday or today? That they hadn't seen any of this keep Christ in Christmas stuff, except for when I posted. Well, you must be very fortunate then, because I've been seeing it all over everywhere.
Yeah,
and people fighting over why it's important to keep Christ in Christmas, but yet they don't want to keep Christ in, June the 3rd or August 21st or any other day of the year. it's always they seem to focus on November and December, and then after that, it's you're on your own again.
So
That's not
what
the way it's
Russell
supposed to be.
so what Russell Moore in his latest book, what he wrote was that he's still having pastors come up to him and saying that this whole idea, this worship of America and Trump are dividing congregations. And you're seeing a lot of pastors going, I don't know if I really want to do this. Now, Tim Alberta, in the book, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, he is a PK. He's
Right.
longtime member of his dad's church. So his dad retired and they put in one of them young whippersnappers, and that there were individuals within his congregation that were saying, well, why aren't you talking about abortion? Why aren't you talking about those immigrants? Why aren't you talking about more political issues? And he just said back, because, we teach Christianity here. And that people were calling him woke because that he was teaching that you should love your neighbor, that you should pray for those people who persecute you, and that you should turn the other cheek. And what Tim Alberta was saying also in his book was that Christianity, when it was birthed, you think things are bad now. They were really, really awful back in the days of Roman persecution and Roman occupation. So, but what did the church do? Well, the church did not fight back against the political, that they, through Paul's letters, saying that you should obey the authorities and live in peace as much as possible. So what happened was, again, that the Christian church went ahead and kept growing despite the persecution. They did not have to get involved in the politics of the day. They just went ahead and just continued their belief in God, in their belief in the in salvation through Jesus Christ. They just continued doing that. Your opinion here, Jeff Radcliff.
If we were to go back 2,000 years, we would have a lot of people, kind of looking at us sideways, because these followers of Yeshua were on the outside of things. They, looking in, they were on the fringes. Frankly, Christianity was a cult back then. And by strict definition, it's a sect. It still could be considered a cult. But back then, particularly because they were bucking the trend of going against the teachings of Rome.
Yes.
So I think Christianity has become a cult now because they have politicized a lot of things. And as we are starting to see the pendulum go back the other way, and as we start to see more people start to reclaim what being part of that church means and what it is to be called a Christian and to live the life and the principles and the teachings of Jesus the Christ, we'll see it being called a cult, because it will be, because it's just going to be another offshoot that's bucking the trend. And a lot of people, when you use the word cult, they go back to the 60s and the 70s, and they think about the Moonies and the Hare Krishnas and people being brainwashed and things of that nature. Well, you know what? When you politicize things and you keep talking about how an election was stolen and things of that nature, and you've got one man telling you what to say and what to think, and you're buying into it whole hog, then frankly, I'm sorry, my dear, you're going to need a deprogrammer to get you out of that, because that's exactly what it is.
So in Tim's book, Tim Alberta, he when he went back to his home church, that there had been probably about half of the families who left because he would not talk about Christianity and political issues. What happened is there was another church that started down the street with a firebrand pastor who went ahead and talked about, again, politics and the correct Christian attitude to have towards them, which is, again, a antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is that the new guy at his church, at Tim's church, didn't quit. What he did was he continued to toe the line as far as, talking about the Christian message. And what happened is that the people who left were taken up by families who came in, and they're back up in their population now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there is an awakening that's happening, that individuals and also pastors are going, we can't keep doing this anymore. We can't let the congregations and the congregants run the church.
Mm.
We have to, again, to talk about the teachings of Jesus. And again, I think that that's one of the reasons for many people, and I've seen on my Facebook post that many people are putting up things about Yule and things about solstice,
Mm-hmm.
and not about Christmas.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is that my train of thought just derailed. Yeah, I think what's interesting is that we can take these political topics and look at them from a Christian point of view. We can look at them from a New Thought point of view. Because in New Thought, we believe that God, Spirit, is all there is. And so, when it comes to political issues, God is all there is. But that's not to say that we need to talk about policing our borders and closing them down and keeping the immigrants out. The Christian way to talk about that is to talk about these things with love, and to look at the people who are trying to come to this country, and they're not coming here with nefarious purposes. They want to live a better life for themselves. They've heard they've heard about the opportunities of the United States all their lives. We've grown up hearing that stuff. It's only recently, within the past few years, that we stopped talking about how any boy can grow up, or, any kid now, man or boy or girl, can grow up to be president of the United States. We don't hear that anymore. All we're hearing is we've got to look out for number one, and we've got to keep the undesirables out. The idea of that is repugnant to me, because it's unloving. The loving stance is to look at these people who are coming here and saying, how can I be of service to them? Because they want to be of service to us.
Right.
They want to contribute to our society in order to bring themselves up. These are people who are out there building houses in the hot sun all day. They're out in the fields picking our fruits and vegetables. They're out taking care of other people's children. they're doing a lot of the jobs that most Americans would find beneath themselves.
Yes.
They wouldn't even dream of doing it. So how unloving do you have to be? How hateful must you be to not even want to go out and pull carrots out of the ground to feed your fellow Americans? But yet here's somebody who's willing to do that, and you don't want them here.
Yes, we only have a few
just
more.
Boggles my mind.
Right, and it boggles my mind too, Jeff. Now on Sundays I'll be real upfront. I don't talk about I talk about my views here on this program,
Right?
but on Sunday mornings is that I really talk on spiritual principles. For example, the talk that I'm putting together for this Sunday, I'm talking again about the whole idea, the metaphysical idea of Christmas, not putting the whole idea of Jesus aside, but saying that Jesus was not the great exception, but Jesus was the great example. And what we're learning here, in a more enlightened viewpoint of the Bible, is that it really is calling all of us to awaken that Christ consciousness, that Christ awareness within us, to have that baby that's born in us, so that again, that we can be a light to the world. Your closing comments, Reverend Jeff Radcliff.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that baby being born within us, because I posted about that on Facebook earlier today, which is basically was saying, and if I can find it real quick, I'll bring it up. But it was basically, it's just saying Jesus didn't come just at Christmas. That Christ spirit is in us. It's always been within us. We just need to allow it to come forth, and we birth it not just in December, but all year round. And how many times we have forgotten that. And it's unfortunate that we have, but I think more and more of us are beginning to wake up to the idea that spirit is within us year round, not just one time a year.
We've run out of time, like usual.
Every day the Christ is reborn within each one of us. Are you seeing that Christ in other people? Are you seeing it within yourselves? We are all refugees seeking shelter and protection. That's
absolutely
what I posted today. Also, and before we go, Gertrude Stein. That's who I was trying to think.
Gertrude Stein. Okay.
Gertrude, that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, it was Gertrude Stein.
How could you forget that?
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Reverend Jeff Radcliff, all the way from the great state of Tennessee. Thank you so very much. Happy holy days to you and yours, and especially to your little puppy. And you have a really, really nice holiday. All right.
And you as well. And Abdul, thanks for tuning in. Namaste.
Thank you, Abdul. Yes, all the way from Chicago.
And Diana. Gotta love her. I love it.
She says I have too many books. She's not getting me a book for. I do. I have too many books, really. All right. Time for us to go here again. Thank you so very much. And that we are here for you here on the New Thought Media Network. We'll be with you again next Friday evening on behalf of all of us, and Diana and Jeff, and even our own Reverend Robert Brzezinski. We want to wish you again the happiest of holidays, and we will see all of you next week here on Friday's Fireside Chat. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for joining us this evening for Friday's Fireside Chat with Pastor Michael Mangus. Join us again next week at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain for more spiritual conversations for today. For more information and replays of past shows, please visit the New Thought Radio and Media Network's Facebook page. Until next week, may God bless you richly and abundantly.